good day, good night, good evening, depending on what time you happen to be watching this. Welcome to another episode of House of Stars. I'm your girl Star, and today, as you can see from the title, I am doing a psychic reading on the allegations made by Nicki Minaj that Cardi B had worked voodoo on her. Now, first and foremost, this is actually old news to me because Nicki Minaj has spoken on this before. If you actually are familiar with her song Ganja Burns, I'm gonna put the lyrics in the description box because there's certain lyrics that certain people she shot at. She used a lot of little subliminals in it. But there has been talk and has been circulated before, but never really confirmed by Nicki, that there were allegations that Cardi B did spiritual work on her, right? Now, Cardi B is open about her spirituality in certain ways. She mentions, he went to the lady and that sorted him out. You know what I mean? And coming from a background where she comes from, she's from the Caribbean, especially in the Spanish diaspora of the Caribbean, Dominican. She's Dominican and Trinidadian. So in the Caribbean, of course, that's, when it comes to you being in the industry or when you're trying to elevate yourself to a certain success and have protection while being in that, is usually advisable to have, a spiritual worker or a spiritual advisor or a babalawo, whatever you want to call it, that advised you on your next steps and, protects you on your next steps and things like that. So, I'm just going to get into it. Okay, so if you guys haven't watched my video before, I'm a spiritual advisor. I do healings and things like that. I am ground. So, yeah, so this is coming from a perspective of me using a mix of obviously my intuition, what I get from my guides, and also just my understanding of what I believe in, which I'm a Christian spiritualist. And so it's a mixture of Christianity and Ifa. So let's get into it. So let's see. The first thing I got was karma. Now you have to understand karma because people get karma confused. People always think that karma has to do with bad deeds that you've done and getting a payback, which karmic energy doesn't necessarily have to do with anything that has to do with your lifetime or even when it comes to a reap what you sow. Sometimes karmatic energy comes in to teach us. You know what I mean? So when it came to Nicki Minaj and the situation, this was definitely a karmatic situation, especially when it comes to the tapestry of how the energetical buildup is built up in the industry, especially when it comes to women. You know what I mean? Usually when it comes to women doing things that they're going into a part in the industry where there is not it's not really female dominated. When another female comes in, it's almost like there's a weird kind of initiation period that kind of happens to the person that has fought for the spot is challenged by the new person. You know what I mean? So it was karmatic for her. People could look at it as it was karmatic for her, for Nicki Minaj that is, in a sense where, okay, they felt that she didn't give Lil Kim her homage or her respect the way that she should have when she came into the industry. Now, I can respect how Nicki Minaj maybe made some decisions about going about that because in reality, when you're a female going into a male-dominant industry, the last thing you kind of want to do or be is compared to anybody else in the industry where you're trying to fight your own stripes and make your own legendary stats within the industry. You know what I mean? So that's the energy I'm getting, kind of where her energy was in it, where it was I gave you your respect, now this is about what I'm doing. You know what I mean? But see, the thing is, when I see with Nicki Minaj has a lot of strong ancestors walking with her. Don't ever in a million years get that twisted. Even if Cardi B has the strongest practitioner out there that was able to even get a slight hit on Nicki Minaj, the only reason why that hit was able a target to even get to her the way that she could acknowledge it that it did is because her ancestors allowed that hit to go through. You understand? So what people have to understand when it comes to our ancestors, they protect us, they walk with us, they are there to teach us lessons. You know what I mean? It's like your grandmother. Your grandmother, you sit down with your grandmother, she gives you advice on life. You know what I mean? It's like, you know, or your mother or your parents, and you're like, oh yeah, they're just talking shit. When it's like really, it's like no, like they lived life, they walked a certain tapestry, they walked a certain road, and now they're showing you and giving you the, you know, the golden nuggets that you need to have and carry. Now, when it comes to the afterlife, of course, when it comes to spirit, they only could communicate in only so many ways. You know what I mean? So I get the sense and the energy I'm getting with Nicki Minaj. I feel like she was in a very complacent time in her life where it was like, I don't know. I get it was like with her age because she was getting older. Um, it was almost like she loves what she does. She enjoys being a rapper. She likes staying at the top, and she's definitely a person that likes to work. Like Nicki Minaj is a person that doesn't like to not have something to do. You know what I mean? She was doing her things, but it was almost like she was losing a little bit of sight of of what she was there for in the first place. You know what I mean? Because it's like she fought so hard to get to where she got to. She got there. There wasn't much competition in the way at all because it was an industry that didn't have women that weren't even halfway in the caliber of where she was. And I don't think she was a person that really allowed it to get to her head in a way where it was like, okay, I'm the best and there's never gonna be whatever. I think it got to a point where she's so used to fighting that there was no more fight. So she started to get complacent because she's always used to having some kind of friction or struggle. And for some reason, I don't know why I'm getting the image of boats, which this shows me Yemenia. Okay? I don't know why I get in some way that this was almost like this situation happening to her was brought in her path because it was a journey that actually led her to motherhood. You know what I mean? It not only did it lead her to motherhood, but it led her to the innate power that she actually has in herself on a deeper level. Not just Nicki Minaj, a rapper, like you're skillful, you're a good writer, you're talented, you made all these successful, um, did these successful things in your life, but in a sense where it's like the depths of who you really are as a person. Like, what did God build you to be? I think she's really lost sight of the whole capacity of who she was. And also when it comes to motherhood as well, you know? Um, I think she got too caught up in just the demands and doing what was expected of her and not really sitting down to the root of who Nikki really was. Like that inner child. That's why Yemiya's coming out. It's like she lost sight of that. You know what I mean? So that's when Cardi B came along. Now, when it came to Cardi B, I think Cardi B's lesson in the situation was for her to see. It made her open her eyes to the industry because I think Cardi B comes again. She comes from such a very humble beginning and very humble surroundings that I think her being like the funny, happy-go-lucky person, like whatever, I think that, and she has been in the dangerous situations, and I think she underestimated how dangerous or how slimy the industry can get. It's like it was a situation for her where it humbled her. So we have two roads here, Ashe, which is a legua, right? One road where it led Nikki to having more depth. You know what I mean? Yeah, man, yeah. It led her to having more depth, understanding of herself, inner child issues, becoming a mother, all these things, because it really touched on some inner child stuff for her, which also is Elegua as well. When it came to Cardi B, it led Cardi B down a road where she had to have a bigger understanding of, I don't know why, a gun. Okay? Because we know that at the end of the day, when it comes to Cardi B's a fighter. You know what I'm saying? She's always looking for battle. You know? She's always looking for justice. Keep in mind, Cardi B is a Libra, right? Which is the justice scales. Also, what's very prominent when it comes to justice is a sword, which is a gun, right? And a gun is the god of war. So I felt it led her down a road of understanding difference between meaningless fighting and skillful fighting. You know what I mean? I think that when it came to Cardi B, before this time, she was a meaningless fighter. So meaning she allowed everything to get to her. You know what I mean? She wouldn't think, she wouldn't process, or whatever the case may be. She allowed her feelings to lead her way. When it came to this situation and things that led out of it, because it's not just a situation. You have to understand there's always the seed and then the roots that sprout from it, right? It taught her how to be a skillful fighter. You know what I mean? And not just that, very mindful of the opponent that you're going up against. You know what I mean? And when you, like, for example, for me, I see myself, I come from a warrior tribe, right? So the essence of my family is very warrior energy, you know? I remember back when, before I even really started to take up my faith, like one of the biggest books that I read that I really liked was The Art of War by Sun Tzu. You know what I mean? And that wasn't, and you know, I come from a warrior tribe, which is the Maroons, and there was Nanny Maroon, and she's a female. She was a female warrior. But one thing about Nanny Maroon, she wasn't just a good fighter; she was a skillful fighter. You know what I mean? So how she fought, or most battles are won without you having to actually fight. You know what I mean? It's also understanding the opponent in general, you know? So I think for Cardi, where Cardi always felt like, okay, somebody speak on her name or somebody does something, like I will show you, she realized that, nah, there's some people you just gotta sit back and watch and just know how to navigate yourself around it. You know what I mean? It's like, okay, what is expected is that you draw your knife, I'm gonna draw mine. You know what I mean? It's like, okay, this time around, I'm probably not gonna draw a knife. I'm probably fucking, I don't know, I'm gonna come and bring some kind of liquid that melts knives instead. It's like, which in reality is, how powerful is your knife if I have something that can subdue it? You understand? I feel like that was the biggest lesson for Cardi B in the situation. So when it came to Nicki Minaj, it showed Nicki Minaj her power. You know what I mean? Because I think she knew her power, but I don't think she understood her power and her depths, her essence, her inner child that was crying for her, that was being neglected, that was really the very thing that was going to take her to the next step. You know what I mean? Because if you see Cardi B and you see Nicki Minaj, of course, Cardi B is a lot younger than Nicki Minaj. You know what I mean? And the way how Cardi B is, she carries a lot of, she's in touch with her inner child. You know what I mean? Where you see Nicki Minaj hasn't really been in touch with her inner child in a while because there's so much trauma there that it's forced her to be an adult. You know what I'm saying? It's forced her to be adult faster than she needs to be. So sometimes when that happens to us, we neglect that we need to get in touch with our inner child sometimes, you know? So it brought her back to that because it really brought her back into the depths of who she is. Because if she really allowed herself to be in touch with the depths of who she is, that inner child person that she really was in that situation, she wouldn't have allowed anything that Cardi was doing when she was in her Alegua to affect her. She would have been the mother and stood up and said, okay, no, this is not what we could do. Yes, you know, as when it comes to children, you love them and you may have to scold them. But at the same time, it's all with love. That was the approach of what should have happened. But overall, me doing this reading of why I'm saying this is these two women, it's no mistake that they both come by with similar cultural backgrounds. You know what I mean? When it comes to Nicki Minaj, she's full Trinidadian. When it comes to Cardi B is half Trinidadian, right? I'm sure with Nicki Minaj, she has a lot of different mixes as well. But when it's based on ancestry, the ancestries are very similar. You know what I mean? So it's like, if you look at this from the grand scale, from a bigger picture, it's like God sent out two of his daughters to dominate the game. You know what I mean? But I'm sure after this experience, if they were allowed themselves to really look at the depths of why they went through it and piece together the things that had happened, they will learn that they actually should be respecting each other more, because they're actually more similar than they think. So that's my interpretation of the reading and what I see, what has took place. But I am not going to say or deny that I don't see that indeed with Cardi B, when she alleged, it's true. But they, in each other, learning a grand lesson. So there you go. That's my reading. That's my interpretation on that whole situation. If you'd like to get a private reading with me, you can always hit me up on my handles. They're all in the description box. Again, I don't even know. It's kind of corny to do this. I don't care. But if you want to like and subscribe, whatever, share this video, please do so. And yeah, and if the sound's a little bit off because my volume's been a little bit messed up, make sure you up that volume on the video. But again, I want to thank you guys so much for your time and rocking with me. May God bless you and the angels protect you.